It's almost February. Can you still apply to law school? Can you still apply to law school if you're taking the February LSAT? What should you be thinking about the March LSAT? There is a lot for us to discuss here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the CEO of Montgomery Admissions Consulting, where we specialize in working with first generation and minority law school applicants. And today's topic is all about law school timing. Can you still apply to law school in February? You know, nothing in admissions is black and white. Everything in admissions has some sort of shade of gray. So one of the points that we're going to be talking about is, literally, can you still apply in February? Who benefits from applying this late? Because there are some people, and I'm not going to say benefits, but there are some people that, depending on your situation, this is still an absolutely fine time for you to apply. And we're going to talk about what those factors are. The second thing we're going to talk about, though, is who should really, really, really not apply right now. What are some factors that just make this kind of not a great idea? Who would benefit from really just waiting to apply until September? We're going to talk about how you should be feeling about the February LSAT. The scores for the February LSAT come out in March. And then we're going to talk about the March LSAT, because some of you out there are planning to take the March LSAT for this cycle, and I want us to just talk about it. Again, you're never going to hear any absolutes from me. I'm never going to say there are 0 people in the world who should take the March LSAT. I am going to say that most of you should not. But let's have a conversation about it. So first off, in what situation is it really still okay to apply in February? And all of these are really going to give you a series of questions to ask yourself. Now, whether or not you benefit from this video depends on how honest you are with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself about some of these answers, you're not going to have the best understanding of this advice. But here's the question for you. Are the schools that you're applying to less selective? Right? So there are about 193 law schools in the country, and I am not of the opinion that rankings are everything. In fact, I think you absolutely should look past rankings when making your law school decision. The rankings are important in some contexts, for some career paths, for some people. But, if you were like me, and I wanted to be a family law attorney, and I was a family law attorney. And shout out to all of you that want to do family law. And I wanted to move back to Maryland, which I did, and I didn't want to live in a city. Moved back home to the burbs with my family. I helped, my sister through high school. And I really could have gone to University of Baltimore and had the same exact, legal options. I could have gone to University of Maryland. Shout out to Maryland. Go Terps. I could have gone to a lot of other lower ranked theoretically schools than Harvard Law School. And if I knew that I wanted my home base to be in Maryland, that would have been fine, right? So when I say, are the schools that you're applying to less selective, it's not a dig. It doesn't mean I don't think you should be reaching for the stars or that kind of thing. But some of you guys have different considerations. Some of you have a family, you have kids in a school system you don't want to move them from. So you're looking geographically, or you want to do something really specialized, or you want a smaller school or a different field. There are so many reasons for applying to law school and so many ways that you can make the choice about which law school to apply to. If the law schools that you're applying to are under that, T50, for a lot of those schools, and even some of the schools between T25 and T50, they are getting the bulk of their applications in January and February. So many of you just took the January LSAT. Your scores come out in just a little bit, in about a week or so, and you're ready to hit submit next week. You're totally fine. Honestly, for the majority of schools, not the most selective schools always, unless you're above the medians, but for the majority of schools, if you just took the January LSAT, and it's not a highly selective school, and you are someone that knows that you are going to be at or above medians, second question asking yourself, be honest. If you are going to be at or above medians at a school ranked lower than the T25, hitting submit next week, you're going to be in the plurality of applicants. So you won't have that early advantage, but you're going to be just fine. Now, For some of you, you aren't above medians in either GPA or in LSAT, and you're applying to schools that are kind of a reach. Well, if those are both true, then applying to schools later in the cycle doesn't do you any favors because they have more flexibility to be holistic and to kind of, make those determinations earlier in the cycle. It doesn't mean that they can't make them later in the cycle. It just means that there's a lot more flexibility earlier in the cycle. Now, if you're telling me, you're like, Sydney, okay, but I haven't actually started my essays, and I'm thinking about taking the February LSAT. Is it too late for me? Do I still have a chance? What should I do? The same questions I'm going to ask you. One, how selective are the schools that you're applying to? And I'm going to follow that up with, have you made relationships with admissions? Have you talked to them about your situation? This year, there are so many reasons why people's applications are delayed. I got COVID over Christmas. I think a lot of people got COVID over the, December, January holidays. In fact, a lot of admissions readers got COVID, right? There are many theories for why this application cycle is reading a little bit slower than other application cycles, but one of my theories is that people are sick and it's caused a slowdown in every single area, from your restaurant to my payroll company. Every area seems to be experiencing this short-staffed issue, and I don't think that admissions are any different, right? And so have that open and honest conversation. Hey, I was really trying to apply in December, but then my family got COVID, I got COVID. We had to recover from that. So my applications are a little bit delayed. They're a little bit behind what I wanted to. I still am very much interested in your school. I'm planning to take the February LSAT, but can you let me know if this is a feasible option? Does your school still take students that apply with the February LSAT? Is it likely that there's still going to be space in your class? This is one of the reasons why I stress in September and October and November. Start connecting with admissions, even if it's just going to an information session and then following up with an email afterwards, just saying thank you and introducing yourself. Why? Because things happen. Life happens in the course of your admission cycle. And it's so much better if you're reaching out to that person that you maybe already had a little bit of a rapport with in the fall, being like, hey, we talked. When I talked to you in September and October, my plan was to hit submit that fall or in December. But this is what's happened. My father lost his job and I had to pick up an extra shift. Someone in our family member really got sick and we had to deal with that. There are things that have happened, especially in this global pandemic. There are things that have happened beyond my control. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just letting you know that my intentions are the same. I still intend to apply to your school, but I just want to know if this is a feasible option still. I have found law school admissions personnel to be incredibly honest and forthcoming. They will tell you, honestly, we're almost full. Our class is almost full. You might want to apply to the evening division. Honestly, it would be much better for you to apply in September because we're not really able to make those considerations, especially if you are someone who is below the medians, right? Just have an honest conversation with them. Now, they will never tell you, absolutely, you can get in. They'll never tell you that. However, sometimes they will tell you, it might be tough this year with your score and with where we're at in February. I would advise you to take time off and apply in September. I have known, not every school is like that, but I have known admissions to say that to students. How do you make these conversations? There are a number of schools where they have really made themselves available. I'm going to shout out American University real quick, my hometown, my backyard in DC, right? They have Zoom sessions with admissions that you can just book. You can just book 30 minutes to talk to them, right? It doesn't get more accessible than that. New York Law School is another one. Shout out to them. They also have these Zoom links. Roger Williams University, shout out to them. They had open Zoom hours every Monday, at least during the greater part of the application season. They are there, ready and willing to talk to you. If you are someone that is thinking about taking the February LSATs, and applying, it would behoove you to start making these connections with admissions and letting them know, and also finding out for yourself whether that's a viable option for this particular school. Because some of the schools, you guys know, have deadlines in February, some of the schools have deadlines in April, but I like to say that these deadlines are fictitious. Why? Because honestly, some of these schools fill their class well before their deadlines every single year, and they know this. And yeah, they may keep the application date open for that 170 plus candidate that's going to really raise their medians, but they know in their hearts that they don't have room for a 145 2.7 in March, even though their application deadline is April. Some of them know, they know that. And they're not going to say that maybe on the website, but they know that, and they might say that to your face if you have a Zoom call with them or a phone call with them, right? So if you are thinking about applying later, you really need to take a personalized look at every one of your schools, because each school operates differently. For some schools, hey, 25% of their incoming class takes the February LSAT. They are not worried about it. They are not batting an eye. Come on in. For some schools, they're basically closed by that time. You need to take a look at each and every single one of your schools and see if this makes sense. And that's kind of why I go to who, can still apply in February, and when does it make sense? What are your career goals? What is important to you in your law school search? Are you someone who, if we're going to be honest, you would be undermatching and underselling yourself by applying this late? You should not. Some of you are afraid to maximize and reach your full potential. I see it all the time. I see students who have really worked hard in undergrad. Maybe you have that 3.9. Maybe you don't, but you have had a professional career. Maybe you've really busted your ass these last few years. You've done so much. Your application could be so strong, but you're trying to rush it at the end. You're taking the February LSAT. Honestly, the chances of you getting in with the February LSAT to the schools that you really want to go to are kind of low. It's possible, but they're just low. And if we're going to be honest, if you had another 6 months to study for the LSAT, your score could change. You could go from that 147 to that 160. And sometimes I have these conversations with students because I look at them and I look at their profile, especially students with those strong GPAs, and I say, right now, you could apply as a 3.9, 145 in February or March. You're going to have one set of outcomes. You could apply in September, 3.9, 160 in September. Man, not only are you going to open doors at that upper tier of schools now, you might even get scholarship money. You might even get a full ride tuition somewhere. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference in acceptance letters if you just wait till September. And then that is what I don't like to tell people not to apply, right? Because everyone wants to shoot their shot, and I'm here to support you. But when the difference is, I just want to go in the fall, and I'm okay getting into a lower tier school, paying almost full for it because you're probably not going to get that much scholarship money, because I want to start in the fall, versus I'm going to wait. I know I really want to start in the fall, but I'm going to wait. And I'm going to go to an upper tier school. And even if I go to a mid-range school, I'm probably going to get at least a half tuition scholarship. I'm going to break cycles of generational debt in my family because I'm not going to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt unnecessarily. And I'm going to be able to have larger impact in my community because I will have increased my employability because I waited 9 months, a year to start school, because I'm okay making long-term decisions that are going to be the best for my future. What do I always say? We don't make long-term decisions based on short-term emotions, right? Short-term emotion, I want to go right now. Long-term decision, am I going to potentially save $100,000 to $200,000 by putting my applications in September and giving myself my best shot? Now, if you tell me, listen, There are financial reasons why it makes sense for me to go to law school this fall. Maybe there's a scholarship that you have been awarded, but there's a timestamp on it, and you have to go this fall to take advantage of it. Or you're going to use the GI benefits anyways. So to be honest, the amount of money is the same. Or you have already all of the money in, a 529, or maybe there's, another reason why financially the outcomes would be the same. And maybe you're saying, actually, this is the school that I want to go to. Like, I want to go to this school. It's not highly ranked, but this is the school that I want to go to. Whether I apply in the fall or I apply now, I know that this is the school I want to go to, and the finances at that school are going to look the same. Whether I apply now or I apply in the fall, then absolutely apply now. If you can tell me that the outcome you are seeking is the same as if you were to wait and study and get higher on the LSAT, right, and apply in September, if you can tell me it's the same school and the finances look the same, then I want you to apply now. Let's get it together, right? Like, you don't have a lot of time, but let's get your stuff together. But if you're being honest with yourself, and your school list would change if you had another 6 months to study for the LSAT and score higher. If you're being honest with yourself, and not only would your school list change if you waited to September, but you would probably be saving $100,000 or more in law school debt because you waited and now you have the opportunity to get better scholarship offers, or because now you have the opportunity to apply to pipeline programs or fellowship programs over the summer. If there's $100,000 difference between applying now and rushing your applications and applying in September when you are really truly ready, then you should apply in September when you are really truly ready, because it's $100,000 of difference. Like, I don't think some of you understand how much law school costs, right? So the average, the law school tuitions I'm just going to talk about the top 50 schools right now, all right? The tuitions range from about $40,000 to $70,000 a year. When you add in cost of living, you are talking about somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. Law school is 3 years, okay? Just some math for you guys. That is $180,000 to $270,000 total. Law school is expensive. Now, we should not be paying full sticker for law school. Nobody should be paying full sticker for law school. You should go somewhere where you're at least going to get a little bit of scholarship money, right? Even if you're going to those top schools, the only reason why you should be paying full is because your family doesn't qualify for any need-based aid and you already have all that money in a 529 account. But otherwise, you should be getting some kind of need-based aid from at least the top schools. Or you should be getting merit aid from other schools. But no one should really be applying full sticker to law school. When do people actually end up applying full sticker to law school? When they don't give themselves their best chance. When you submit your application that might be at or below the median really late in the cycle, like March, April. Some people apply to law school in June. Listen, can you get into law school in June? Some law school, there are law schools that will take you in June. And maybe it's the law school you want to go to, right? But for the majority of you, the law schools that you'd be getting into in June are not really the tier of law schools that you probably would want to be going to in September. Again, for some of you, they are, and that's fantastic. It's fantastic. And as long as you can tell me that the money looks the same, that's great. But I want you to maximize your scholarship potential. I don't want you to have options. This is the rest of your life. This is also your employability. What's the employment score look like at the school that you're going to? How many of them get jobs within 6 months of graduation? These are important questions to ask yourself. Am I going to be in that number? Law school is not just about getting into law school. Law school is not the final destination. Your career is the final destination. And when you graduate from law school, you will have loans to pay back unless you get a full ride scholarship, which you're not likely to do if you apply in March or April or May or June, right? There is no reason for you to set yourself up in a situation where you are going to be paying full sticker for a low-ranked law school. That doesn't make sense. Let me say it again. There's no reason for you to set yourself up in a situation where you're going to be paying full sticker for a low-ranked law school. You can go to a low-ranked law school, but there better be scholarship money attached to that. Like a lot of it. Which you'll get in September. And you're not as likely to get in March, April, May, or June. These are things that you need to consider. So for most of you, the answer, should I apply to law school in March? Should I take the March LSAT and potentially apply to law school in April? I have serious concerns about that. I don't even take students after February 15th. I really don't. Because I don't want to take your money for something that I don't believe in. You absolutely could do just fine. Like some of you, I can already hear in the comments, well, I applied to law school in March last year and I got into all of my schools and I even got maybe some scholarship money. Great. You are the exception and not the rule. There are no black and whites in admission. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it is not the rule. It is not standard. It is not typical for you to apply to law school in March, April, May, or June and end up getting at least a half tuition scholarship to law school. It's not typical. It's probably not going to happen. Unless you're someone that's applying above the medians. If you're applying above the medians, a lot of this conversation, you could probably finagle some things. But typically, students who are applying this late in the cycle are also not above medians. And law schools also judge how you apply. They want students who are prepared. They want students who are showing that they have all their ducks in a row. You're trying to be a lawyer, right? That you are prepared for the process. Rushing an application, submitting a sloppy application, submitting an application on the deadline, under the medians, what does that say about your preparedness? I know this may sound a little harsh. I'm not trying to be, but I think it's really important that we have these conversations and we're honest with ourselves. So, how can you be thinking about the February LSAT in the way of, I have already spoken to admissions. They're aware. They said that it's okay. They're encouraging it. I know that I'm going to be at or above the medians. I can also say with 100% certainty that the school list that I'm applying to now is the same school list I would apply to if I gave myself an extra 6 months, 8 months to get my application together. And I can also say with certainty that I am not leaving $100,000 on the table by applying now instead of applying in September. If you can't say all those things, then you need to apply in September. I do not recommend the March LSAT for almost anyone. I just don't recommend it. Because being a lawyer is about mitigating risk. And it is very likely that you will not get the scholarship money that you could have if you take the March LSAT. And I don't like those odds, right? So I think you need to be really honest with yourself about why you're doing this and what kind of lawyer you want to be and how you want to start your legal career. So guys, listen, I know this is a hard decision. When to apply to law school. I am praying for you. If you ever need prayer, don't hesitate to reach out. You can always submit prayer requests or questions to bit.ly/breakintolawschool. We're more than happy to answer those questions for you. And if you liked this video, make sure that you hit like, you subscribe to our channel, you rate and review the podcast, share it with a friend, leave some comments for me below, and I will see you here next week.